Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 342, recorded live on Sunday, June 29th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week we have from DDO Cocktail Hour, Lessah.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Patrick, for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. This week's screenshot, Roxanne parties a bit too hard at the Linky Dinky in the 178th screenshot of the week. A rather appropriate screenshot for having a Cocktail Hour guest on the show. I'm sure if the hair color was right, I could almost say that might actually be Samus.
You know, yes, it would need to be lime green. And then it could be Samus. It could be she Samus if it was lime green.
This is probably actually my favorite screenshot of the week so far. It's pretty darn hilarious. It's very clever and thoughtful, and
That's right.
it's a creative use of what's available. So, and completely different than what we've seen before. So, Roxanne, nice job. It's a great screenshot there. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Google+, Hangouts, YouTube, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show is going to be a recorded show. It will probably come out on Sunday, but I don't think I could say that I've ever really been busier in my life than these 2 weeks, so be patient. This one might actually take a few days to get out as well. A lot of stuff going on for me. But you can stay updated by following us on social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, with our calendar. And you can kind of see what's coming up and where shows will be coming for at least a month or so. I usually kind of try and target a date and pencil them in. On the podcast this week, we're going to talk about a little bit of brief news, some Crystal Cove stuff, and our discussion this week is going to be on Stayin Alive. We brought in our permadeath expert, how to stay alive. The closest thing we had to permadeath expert.
That's right. I'm the best you're going to get.
We'll start with the game news. Servers will be down on Monday, June 30th from 6 to 3 Eastern Time. It's a really lengthy time, 9 hours, and they seem to be doing a lot of maintenance these days. So I'm not really sure what's up with that. I'm hoping maybe it means there's a server merger coming. I think there's a lot of people that are interested in the server merger.
Stop.
What?
You really think that's going to be it? You really think that's coming?
Maybe. I think they gotta consider doing something. The game's, let's face it, the game's 8 years old.
Server merger.
I don't think it's gonna be that much of a surprise to anybody.
No, it probably won't be.
I cruise through the forums. I'm not a big forum guy, but I usually cruise through the general discussion in a couple different forums just before our show, just to see if I can find something of interest. And these days, server merger is kind of a big topic.
Wow.
So, and my understanding is the technology these days, compared to when DDO was launched, is a lot better in terms of not really needing to do servers. I've heard there's a lot of games coming out. This is all secondhand. But my understanding is a lot of the newer games don't really even need to do different servers, just because of the difference in technology. So I don't know. Maybe it's speculation. This is not news. This is barely worthy of tabloids.
We're talking about rumors here, people. This is important stuff.
So if you heard it first here, you were misinformed. It's just, yeah. Anyways, some updates on Spell Singers. They're not planning on merging Enthrall and Fascinate. They've kind of been talking on and off about this. Basically, what it's coming down to is a lot of people want to have 2 Fascinate timers. You can actually use Enthrall and Fascinate separately and have different timers. Although I've never found that having more than one was really necessary, but I can certainly see why you'd want to have 2. In terms of War Chanter, they let us know that for War Chanter chants, they trigger on nearby allies approximately every 10 seconds and last for 60 seconds, or refresh to 60 seconds if you stand nearby. So you don't need to be glued to the War Chanter for this, but you can't keep the bus forever if you're splitting the party in a long-term manner, which I think is a pretty good compromise. It's a pretty good way to go about that. They have some tunes from the music from Update 22 in Three Barrel Cove, the epic version. I don't know if it's actually different than the normal version in terms of music, but...
The music is awesome. You need to listen to it. I downloaded all of it. And there's a really cool Kobolds Still Hate You sort of dance club remix that's just awesome.
Oh, geez.
It's really good. I would also like to point out that I made Patrick laugh. Bam! Thank you. You're welcome, Storm Rage.
It's not that hard.
I made Patrick laugh. Yeah, well, I've never seen anyone else do it. I've been trolling your shows. It's okay. You're welcome.
I laugh all the time.
I laugh on the inside.
Sometimes you don't see it because I think there's only 2 people in the hangout. What it does is it only shows the person who's talking. If there's more than 2, then you get a little bar at the bottom. And you get to see a window of everybody. So you usually when I'm laughing, it's because someone else is talking.
Oh, okay.
You don't see me laughing as much.
Oh, okay. So you are capable.
Oh yeah.
Very capable. I hope you looked at the show notes because I added a game for you at the end.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Luckily, I'm in charge of the show, and I have. All right,
I'm ready.
Lessah laugh. There you go. All right, that's it for the news. There's not a lot of news this week, which is great. Hopefully we'll have a little bit shorter of a show, or we'll talk a lot. That could happen too. Couple of bugs to mention. It looks like you mentioned some bug. You wanted to mention some bugs here, Lessah.
Yeah, I did, and then I was like, man, when is Patrick gonna add show notes? And then I went back into the shared document and looked at it. Wow, look at all the show notes. But yeah, there's a couple of things that I noticed. This is from the standpoint of someone who does lots and lots and lots of low-level content. I make traps. I don't know if anyone else in the realm of Dungeons & Dragons Online does that, but I love making traps. Somebody is making traps, and it's me. I love to do that. But when you go into the Trapsmith workshop, and it even says in the amenity, it says that there is a workbench there for you to make traps, or what they call a device workstation. Well, it's not there in the Trapsmith workshop. So you know what? You know what that Trapsmith workshop needs? It needs a device workstation so that I can make my traps. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting my money. Okay, it's not my money. It's my guild's money, but whatever. The point is I want to make traps in this room, and I can't do it. So go ahead. Fix it. Anyway.
So I gotta ask, do permadeath guilds actually bother with airships? Because most of them don't even allow guild ship buffs.
Yes, because there are amenities that you can have that don't do anything at all, like the mailbox and the banker and the device workstation where you can make traps and other stuff. It's funny. When people come, we've actually invited curious onlookers onto our ship before, and it has got nothing on it except basically what you would need to do business: an auctioneer, a barkeep, a banker. That's it.
So is the XP shrine okay?
No, nope, no XP shrine.
Any in-game bonus?
No XP shrine. You need to have me back for an entire show about permadeath because it's a whole can of worms.
We'll put that on the back burner.
We'll have to get into deep. And then you need to come and play permadeath with me first so that you can have some first-hand experiences to draw from.
I think the way that I would play permadeath is see how many other people I could get killed.
That sounds like a few of my guildies, actually.
Hey, Leslie, you want to run Undermine?
No.
Let's go in the 3-Barrel Cove Explorer area.
I almost killed myself with a Potion of Wonder, man. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, oh, Potion of Wonder. I drank it, and blades jumped out and tried to kill me.
I haven't seen blades before. The mines were always the one that got us. I know someone who we ran up on Von 6 up to the dragon, and someone drank a Potion of Wonder right at the spot where you kind of camp out and wait for everyone to come up, and it dropped the mine. Right.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
A few people's
Okay.
finished, but
Do you want me to talk about? Can I talk about the other
Yeah,
bug
go
I found? Okay, this is in Heroic 3-Barrel Cove, and I did not see this in the known issues, so I threw it into your show notes. The Scorch Tusk Minotaur Bruisers, and Lacerator, he's the named Scorpion. Those chests will pop up whether the named is there or not, and you can ransack them whether the name is there or not. I heard that you could do that, so there's really no rush to fix that. That's why I didn't submit it as a bug or post it in the forums because it's cool. You can wait another week because if a person could get, not me, someone else could get crafting materials out of those chests to crunch. Yeah.
They usually don't put stuff like that in the known issues because they don't want to draw that much attention.
They don't want to go, oh hey look, look at what you can do.
It's not technically an exploit because it's.
Well, sometimes the named is there and you have to kill them.
Yeah, so. I mean I don't think they would technically classify it as an exploit because it's not something that you are actually actively doing. It's just there. I mean, it's a bug for sure, but.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, let's see some of the other bugs that are going on. The Drowned Priest Torch is not dropping on live. They'll add that to the show notes or the known issues and try and figure out what's going on. Swashbuckler Uncanny Dodge there's a question of whether this is working as intended. It is. The Uncanny Dodge for Swashbucklers does not provide the extra passive dodge based on level. And the reason for that is they're balancing around the rest of the dodge available in the tree and didn't intend for another 5% to be available there. They are going to make that more clear. This does not change for Barbarians or Rogues, Uncanny Dodge. Which, if you play a Barbarian or a Rogue, put Improved Uncanny Dodge on your hotbar somewhere so you can use it because it's like a plus 50% buff to dodge. Very handy for classes that don't have a lot of defense. But anyways, they apologize for the confusion on that. They are investigating an issue where guildless people can't get guild buffs. That is unintentional, but kind of funny. Good advertisement for joining a guild. And probably the most amusing bug, I think, in a while. The XP buff from the ship amenities can be dispelled by enemies. Oops.
That's awesome. I'm sorry, but I think that's great.
It's pretty funny. It's probably the one buff out of the ship buffs that people actually really care about. Like when people die, it's not because they're losing the other buffs. Really, it's always the XP buff. That's the one that everyone wants because it's all about XP and leveling. So the fact that they can dispel it, I don't think that applies to the old version. I think that may just apply to the new version. But don't take my word for that. Bonus days this week. Crystal Cove is out through July 6th. And of course, they're going to give you something else to do, like double accommodations of valor through July 6th. So the two are not exactly compatible, but you can put them on. I mean, you can put them on at the same time, but it's kind of one or the other. So I did both. I ran the Crystal Cove probably the first time in about 2 years. I don't think I've run it since they updated it to level 30. Had a good time. Yeah. I was surprised at how easy it was on level 30, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. We ran level 30 and we had a group of 20. I was 27. I think everyone else was 28. Although I was mostly running torches, so I wasn't doing trying to do a whole lot of killing. But when I was still able to kill stuff just fine. And I was in Sharati, so I picked and I was on a caster, so.
Oh, okay.
Although he's not.
So you were overpowered.
Well, to be honest, my Sharati caster is not the best Sharati caster in the world. It's a sorcerer, and he's in acid. When he was in frost, it was a little better because frost lance does 3 ticks, whereas the acid SLAs are only 1 shots for the most part in terms of Sharati. I mean, he's got magic missile and chain missile, but even without really using Sharati, like magic missiles and stuff, for the most part, I was still able to kill the first mate on level 30 by myself in like a minute and a half, something like that. So, I didn't find it to be too difficult. I was actually surprised. I kind of figured that you'd be more pressed for time, as we were kind of thinking around and still cleared pretty much both sides. The nice thing is you can get more shards now. It used to be capped at 300 shards. So you get your 100 shards for completion, then you get another 200 shards, and that was the most you could get. You can get more than that now, including the big progenitor crystals.
Yeah, I was going to say you got to go for the progenitor crystal if you're going to do all that.
Yeah, it's a nice. They've made some nice adjustments.
I haven't done the Cove in 2 years. That's crazy. I get weird when the Cove comes out.
We know the flask thing, the Eternal Flask of Rum. I like me. That's
what?
Way too much.
It is a lot of work. I made one. I made one the last time. I got no sleep. I almost got a divorce. But I got my heal potion. I made that damn thing. And it only heals you for about 100 points, and it recycles every 5 minutes. But it's a full restore and a full heal,
You
and
get
it
more out of a silver flame
never
potion.
goes away. Yeah, if you could, if only if you had Silver Flame Favor, that would be perfect. But you know, you have to go and get Silver Flame Favor to do that. You have to kind of
I
be
would think it'd be easier for
badass.
a permadeath character to get some silver flame favor than to get an eternal flask.
I don't know. Can you get Silver Flame Favor by running everything on Smooth Jazz Casual? Maybe.
Permadeath doesn't run things on casual; they run things on
No.
elite.
Do they? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, we do.
I know a few
Absolutely
things about
right.
permadeath. Let's see. Store news for the week. 20% off of augments, 20% off jeweler's toolkits, 20% off of cosmetic armors, and 20% off of cosmetic hats, helms, and headwear. And you can get 5 butter rum coffees with the code RUM4ME, one per account. I guess I should mention, I was going to give a little tip about running Crystal Cove, particularly for torching. I've noticed that, and this is kind of how I do torches. A lot of groups will have one person run torches, but then your groups will do far better if you kind of communicate and do it a little bit by committee. You can have one person kind of direct traffic on how to run the torches. But usually what I'll do is I usually go towards the waterfall in the southeast first, and then you can use your map to kind of see where the kobolds are and try and gauge how many kobolds you want to get to the end, and then you can have someone cut the line and then start going to the west, or vice versa, whichever way you're going. But utilize other people if you're the torcher. Get other people to help you torch. That way you don't have to run all the way back before you can set up the new chain.
Yep,
Just some tips.
agreed.
Let's see. Chronicle for the week. 99th Chronicle. Hey, they're almost 100. That's pretty exciting. Let's see. Voodoo Spice is recording videos with tips and advice. He did one to find Garamol in the subterrane. That's where you can get your icy raiment. They also, which is probably the one that people actually go there for, or they used to go there for. Let's see, what else is down there? You can get sunblades, dwarven throwers. They're kind of more. Those ones are kind of more. I can't think of the word. Kind of trinkety type items. They're not that powerful these days compared to other stuff you can get. But they're kind of fun, particularly for low levels. Let's see, Nodfather is live streaming DDO. You can check that out. On Kyber, the Halfling Summer Games are still going through the summer. This Friday they did a Reaver run. The Order of Dramentia is an Orion-based guild that is a new player-friendly and offers a no-drama guild for the serious and casual player alike. The guild is level 84 and has a website, organizes guild runs, even conducts short story contests. So you can check that out. Question for the week. Why does a failed teleport drop you from the sky above the marketplace? Got any theories on that, Lessah?
Theories as to why a failed teleport drops you from the sky over the marketplace. To give you a small heart attack, because that's what happens to me. Whatever.
I think some.
When it happens to you in permadeath, it really happens. It really happens.
There's I was reading an article this week while I was bored waiting for stuff to happen. It was about I think it was like the 20 worst magic items in the game, or in D&D, specifically pen and paper throughout the ages.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of a running theme was, I think he called them magic item or artifacts of dickishness or something like that. Kind of on the idea that there are wizards out there that do nothing other than build things just to screw with people. If you think about a magic item, someone has to build it.
Well, you got to get a plus to your griefing skill somehow.
Yeah, so I'm guessing there was some malicious wizard that changed how the spell worked or made some sort of spell so that's where you always go. Neat trick, though. Put your feather fall on, and as you fall, see if I can get the direction right, as you fall, go towards the northeast, towards the airship. You need to go kind of toward in the north, not just directly north, but northeast. Mm-hmm. And as you fall, there's a little spot where you will fall through and you won't die.
What? Oh!
True story. There's a hole. Because if you try and move around, there's barriers. But if you fall in that northeast direction, so if you're looking at where the market, the center of the market, just kind of bear towards the left. If you think of it as a square, a nice little square. If this side is where the it's the bridge is going this way, and the market's kind of over here, the center of the market, where all the vendors are. Fall in that direction. And I may have done that
Cool.
in mirror reverse. I'm doing it from my own perspective, and my screen shows it going the other way. But yeah, if you look at the market and then you kind of go toward, think of a square, and the center of the market being one side, go towards the corner where the airship tower is, and you can sneak through, and you don't die. Neat little trick. Let's see, fansite news. We got a shout out for our Druid episode last weekend. Enrique is getting a shout out for Restless Isles blog about Slavers of the Shrinking Mines. The DDO Gamer looks at getting the most from Guild Renowned. Apparently his wife is really good at getting Guild Renowned. I think she built up all the sagas so that she could turn them all in at the same time and drink a pot and went crazy. Let's see, Order of Syncletica looks at the Swashbuckler, which is kind of funny because he's a monk, kind of mostly a monk guy. Let's see, Cordovan is joined a static group called the Summer of Fling, which I believe Lessah is a part of. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, the Summer Fling, we're doing a little group. It's not for very long. It's on Wednesdays. You can come and watch us live. You can actually watch 4 different live streams at the same time, just like you're watching a mall security camera or something like that, or the equivalent, from 12:30 to 1:30 Central Time every Wednesday. We have special rules that I made. You're welcome. I think they all hate me for it too. Like every one of them. Let's see. We only play with what we find. We are not grouping outside of the guild. We're leveling together. Whenever someone dies, they have to remove their clothes immediately. They are not allowed to put their. They can still fight. They can still hold weapons and cast spells and all that, but they have to do it naked. And whenever we are done with the quest, they have to do what we call the Walk of Shame. They have to walk to the tavern with no clothes on, and then they're allowed to get dressed again. If they die twice in the same quest, they have to move to the back of the party and think about what they did. Again, this is all naked. And then now you're not doing anything. So it was so funny and humbling this last Wednesday, and I think you've got it mentioned in your show notes. God, I don't want to step on that.
There's a link in there.
Yeah, I think you do have a link to it in your show notes. Go and watch the first 5 minutes of last week's Summer Fling. We did the chronoscope, and we went in on hard, and everybody was just so darn confident, and we wiped in short order. Just bam, everyone dead. And it was just so wonderful to see everyone humbled, because you need to be humbled every once in a while. People who are used to ship buffs and are used to twinking and are used to all the amenities, just they forget that even low-level content can be difficult and challenging. And that's kind of what I want, is I want to present a different point of view. And at the same time, I'm getting different points of view from them, because they play in a way that I'm not used to playing. So it's really great.
Let's see, there's one flaw in your rule there. Would you really want Samus naked behind you?
Oh, Samus wants me naked all the time.
No, would you want Samus behind you?
Well, he's playing a female, so yes. I'm playing a male,
okay.
So it's all right. We're skin flippers in this party, yeah.
There was a community update video. What was that, Friday? You can watch that. Most of the stuff we've already covered. Nothing really fancy in there. On the Twitch, we mentioned the Summer Fling Chronoscope, and the weekly Twitch that Jerry does as well. He did Epic Elite Old Tomb New Tenants. I believe that's Garl's Tomb, something like that, in Three Barrel Cove. And it was kind of funny that there was some discussion on whether or not he should be running Epic Elite on characters not really geared for it. But as he pointed out, a lot of people wanted him to run it. Now a lot of people don't want him to run Epic. I don't know. So these guys running what people are interested in watching people run, particularly himself. So give the guy a little bit of a break. He's having fun, and we salute him for that. Gen Con is going to be August 14th through the 17th. I know Samus is going to be there. Lessah is often there. I don't know if she's going to be there this year.
I am going to be there this year, yes. I couldn't get in to the regular housing whenever it first came up.
I think I read that sold out in like.
It sold out in. It seemed like it sold out in minutes, because I logged in maybe 2 hours late after the opening, sort of like the opening bell, and there was nothing. Like you could get a day here or a day there, but you could not book an attached hotel for all 4 days. It just wasn't happening. And so I was pretty stressed out about it. And I- it came up on, I think, just hotels.com. Attached hotels were putting up their blocks of rooms just on the internet. And so I had a heart-to-heart with my family about it, and they no longer wanted to go, with the exception of my daughter, who I call Lessah Jr. And so now she and I are going. We already got our schedule. We're going to be decorating cupcakes and doing True Dungeon and some other cool stuff, playing a game called Space Sheep, whatever that is. And Trailer Park Wars, whatever that is. I don't know.
Well, part of the fun of going to Gen Con is playing.
Yeah,
games,
exactly. It's playing new stuff. So it should be a good time. And we're going to hang out with Samus.
One of these days I'll probably make it out there. But,
You need to.
right now.
It's the equivalent of a pilgrimage to Mecca, so you have to go.
I should try and sneak my way into PAX Prime, which is, by the way, August 29th to September 1st, since I live in the area and I work in the industry, so I can kind of sneak in sometimes. Get in through the back door. Let's see. There is a Gen Con meetup, I should mention, and there may or may not be some buff giving. I think Samus is getting a care package for DDO friends and whatnot. So there's a link in the show notes for that. You can find out what's going on there. Let's move into our roundtable discussion, and we're going to talk about how to stay alive while you're playing the game. I thought about getting the music for Stayin Alive, but I didn't want to mess with the copyrights.
Oh.
I kind of chickened out. Anyways, we're going to talk about how to stay alive, and we're trying to get Lessah on the show, and thought this would be a good topic to you'd be really interested in doing. So we'll dive right in. And I don't know what you're talking about when you're saying that I did show notes, because I just put an outline in and you filled in the blanks.
Yeah, I know. I wrote a book.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry.
That's okay. So let's start. We'll start with staying alive versus monsters, and we'll start with defenses. Why don't you give us your thoughts on defenses here, Lessah?
Okay. Well, first of all, not a lot of people use defenses in this game. That's the first thing that I notice. I think, again, just like I'm the only person that makes traps, I'm the only person that fights defensively. I think I'm it. I'm the only one. I'm all by myself. And I love that the first thing you have listed under your defenses is AC, because you know Samus is turning over in his grave right now. And he's not even dead.
He's just drunk, passed out outside the Linky Dinky.
Yeah, but basically, I don't know how family. I know your show is family friendly. So I'm trying to say this in a family friendly way. If you're gonna even bother with AC, you need to go balls to the wall or not at all. Basically, it go higher. Come higher, go home.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, go big or go home. That's the saying. Basically, but what I've noticed, because I have a level 20 paladin who with 8 epic levels, and I can get her AC really, really high, but after about 150, I don't really notice a huge difference. The things that make the most difference are my physical resistance and obviously fortification. So I take that sacred bonus, or the paladin sacred defense stance, and you're probably gonna judge me for this, but I use combat expertise, and I don't get when I get hit, it's not for very much damage. I can absorb. My character is built to absorb damage, so it really doesn't bother me that much.
My swordboard tank has combat expertise on his hot. So this is my
okay.
My fighter has it too, although that's more because he needs it to get improved trip. But particularly if you use the legendary dreadnought, there's an ability in legendary dreadnought that makes your combat expertise also give you plus 20 PRR. So that's a nice boost as well. Obviously, with AC, it's better than it used to be. It used to be there was a 20 point spectrum, 19 point spectrum, because the monsters rolled a d20 just like we did, and you could basically, if you could get your AC into that range of 20, whatever the monsters to hit was, particularly talking about raid monsters, which was like plus 100. So you had to get your AC way up there. But if you could get it up to a meaningful level, you could make it really meaningful because they would only hit you 5% of the time. And then that 20, so if you think about a spectrum of like 150 range to hit an AC, there was 20 points where, or 19 points where it would make kind of a difference. And they could miss or hit a little bit depending on it. If you're below that 20, wherever it was, you always got hit. And if you're above that 20, you hardly ever got hit. So they changed it. You're still gonna get a lot more bang for your buck if you build it up a little bit, but it can be a little bit more effective than it used to be. You still have to get it to a meaningful level though, which can take a little effort.
Yeah. People complain about it because, well, if you're only going in half measures, then I can completely understand not getting the great results. But I get good results with it, so I still believe in it. I still believe!
Yeah, it kind of smoothed it out. Like, you can't get to that point where you're only getting hit 5% of the time anymore. You're still going to get hit a lot more often now. But people that 20-point window is a lot, instead of it being this narrow, now it's, you got about that much space where you can actually be relevant, have a relevant AC, and get some benefit out of it. So. And you mentioned fortification too, and if you're going to be playing at higher levels, particularly, obviously 100% fortification is pretty much a must once you hit, level 11. Pretty much as soon as you can get it, because that will really lower down your damage spikes. But as you get farther along in the game, more and more monsters can actually bypass some fortification, so having a little extra, it can be really beneficial as well. Did you want to continue talking about PRR and dodge? Do you have more thoughts on that?
I don't have too many thoughts. I have no thoughts on dodge. You're gonna have to talk about dodge because
I can talk about dodge.
One thing I don't pay attention to. I probably should. That's one of the things that I need to work on to kind of make things better for myself. But I didn't even know what this was until Samus pointed it out to me when I came back to the game. I was like, defense chance at level, what even is that? Well, if you mouse over your AC at the bottom, there's a percent number, and that is your defense chance at level. As soon as he pointed it out to me, I started paying attention to it. But
that number is crap.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense to me because who fights something at their level? No one.
Well, here's the thing. That number seems to be fairly arbitrary. I don't know how they come up with that number, and as a relative number, it can be helpful for you to gauge where you were versus where you are or where you want to get. But what that number it represents and how they get that number, derive that number, I have no idea, and it's utter crap. Like, there's no. I refuse to believe. I haven't stood there and done numbers, but I don't think that percent number actually is a very reflective number on how they get that. So.
Okay.
Other than a relativity between, I used to have 10% and now I have 30%. 30% is better. That's about all I think you can really use.
More is better.
It's better than THAC0.
You only have 30%. It's better than THAC0. All right. What is MMR? Explain that to me because I keep hearing all this buzz.
So they're going to. It's kind of funny we're talking about defenses. We'll talk about this more later when these changes actually hit. But they're doing some changes on how some of this stuff gets calculated. They're changing the formula for PRR, and they are adding MMR. So PRR is physical resistance rating. MMR is going to be magical resistance rating. And MMR is going to apply to anything that you can make a reflex save against to avoid damage in terms of magical attacks. The reason why they're doing that is they're trying to make heavy armor at least competitive with evasion builds, which in a lot of situations in today's world, or today's DDO world, evasion is way more powerful than having heavy armor. And what they're trying to do is make heavy armor have a place in that kind of an environment, particularly for tanking. Their goal, which is I think is a great goal, and I said that before, they're trying to make a heavy armor build. They'll take more damage over time, but it will be less spiky in damage. It'll be more of an even, predictable damage curve, whereas evasion builds can avoid damage they'll take less damage because they can avoid it more. But if you fail a save, you're going to take a sudden spike in that damage. You won't have as much to mitigate some of that incoming damage. So MMR is going to be very similar to PRR, just in terms of magical damage.
Okay.
I think when we're talking about, we'll kind of lump MMR into this, even though it's not in the game yet. Dodge and PRR, and by that extension MMR, these are probably your three primary defenses these days, because you're talking about these are easier to improve, and smaller increments of improvement are better, or at least they're more effective than when we're talking about AC. AC, you pretty much have to talk in terms of almost in increments of 20 before you actually see any much relative difference, particularly because the AC scale has I can't think of the mathematical term now, but if you think of a graph, as your AC gets higher, it becomes less effective. It's not a linear function. So the difference between 10 AC and 20 AC is is greater than the difference between 150 AC and 160 AC. So as you get more AC, it becomes less effective to get more AC. We're talking about dodge and PRR. Dodge specifically, if you get more dodge, every single point of dodge you get is the same benefit as the previous point of dodge that you got. There is no scaling curve. Now, you can only get up to your max by default is 25, or your maximum dexterity bonus on your armor. So there are caps to it, but every single point of dodge you can get is the same effectiveness as the point before it. I believe the way that the current PRR formula works, that's not the case, but they are going to make it more or less the case. It's actually a small enough number that it's not entirely true, but you can dabble a little bit in PRR and get a lot of benefit out of it, even just a little bit. I think I used to have the numbers on this, but like the first point of PRR is worth 0.6 or 0.065% damage, I think, reduction. Let's see if I have this up here. Okay, so if you get 15 points of PRR, you're reducing your damage by 10%, which 15 points is really easy to get. And you see an immediate 10% reduction in the amount of physical damage you're taking, and by extension MMR, because it can use the same formula. So those dodge and PRR and MMR are much more effective when you're talking about defense than AC. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think, let's see, if you get up to 37 PRR, then you're talking about a 20% reduction in damage, which is really not that hard to do for some builds. So you can actually get really effective in that terms. And let's see, just for kicks, let's see where the 50% mark is. I think so around 145 to 150, depending on which formula you're talking about, either the new one or the old one. That's where you're going to see about a 50% reduction in damage. So if you can get your PRR up that high, you can get a great deep reduction in your damage. I guess we should also talk about evasion. Evasion is helpful for keeping you alive, because anytime you make a reflex save, you can avoid all the damage. If you have improved evasion, you only take half damage. It's a lot less damage.
Can I add something about PRR?
Go for it.
Is there actually it's more of a question. Is there a level where you just kind of don't need to worry about it anymore? Well, how high, is it like AC? How high is too high? My 28 paladin in her defensive stance has 156 PRR.
I think it's one of those things that it's much more effective than AC, in the sense that it doesn't really matter. You're going to get more benefit out of it, because AC is just preventing you from getting hit, which, as a player, you know that it's pretty easy to hit things.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of balance. Now the formula decays in the sense that the more you get, the less you get out of it compared to the previous point. Um, but it's still you're gonna get more benefit out of PR. If you're gonna improve your defenses, dodge and PRR are the two that I would focus on more so than AC,
Okay.
because PRR is gonna help you when you get hit. AC prevents you from getting hit. Dodge prevents you from getting hit, although dodge is much more effective than AC in terms of point systems, although the numbers come smaller, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I usually focus more on I focus on getting some PRR and some dodge, and my AC is whatever my AC is. I still don't focus on AC unless we're talking about my sword and board tank. Um, Even my monk kind of doesn't really care about AC. It's just whatever he's got. So yeah, and the new formula does decay. I'm just kind of using Excel to do some math. And when you get to 100 PRR, each point of PRR is only giving you 24 or 0.24%, compared to the first point of PRR giving you 0.65%. So it does decay, just like
Okay.
AC does.
That's what I thought.
If you're going to be a serious defensive person, get whatever you can get out of all of them. If you're not, improve the one that's the lowest is kind of the general rule of thumb, with the expectation that your dodge is capped by your armor. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
These are kind of things that help you against spells for the most part, but evasion, saves, and spell resistance, I think, help keep you alive. Saves help you resist various effects, including damage spells, which evasion helps for. But things like, so you've got 3 saves: Fortitude, Reflex, and Will. Fortitude helps for stuff that's bodily concerns, so poisons, Finger of Death, so death spells generally are fort saves. Reflex is usually area effect damage spells. And then will save is usually crowd control. So dancing spheres, holds, that kind of stuff. And spell resistance will help you. I wouldn't say go crazy with spell resistance. If you have some, it's great. If not, probably don't worry about it. There's other ways to defend against some of this stuff, which we'll talk about later. But basically, spell resistance works on anything that doesn't do direct damage. So any kind of crowd control, any kind of instant death spells, all that stuff. If it's not doing damage to you, spell resistance generally applies. If it does damage to you, then evasion sometimes applies if it's a reflex save. Yeah. Anything else you want to add to defense before we move on?
Nope. Let's keep going.
Awesome. So let's talk about moving. Do you want to start here?
Sure. Twitch gaming skills. You're moving. The first thing you have listed here is jump, and I keep reading on the hints. The hints that come in your loading splash screen, that after your jump is 40, really doesn't do anything. So
that is my understanding.
Yeah. So
I've never tried to do any hard data on it, but
so basically that tells me you can get it up to a certain point and just carry a little stack of jump pots around with you, and you'd be good to go, right?
pretty much.
So you can jump on top of things, you can jump out of the way of things, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen people die just because they don't want to jump out of the way of something or move out of the way of something. I don't know what they're doing, but they're just standing there absorbing damage. If you're just a squishy little caster, that I think it's more of a caster mentality, because do you play caster?
I play everything.
Okay, all right. So I can say you people, right? When I'm talking to you about casters. You people. I think there's this mentality of I'm very, very powerful when you get to a higher level, and when you get back to that sort of lower level, when you build a new character or when you go to TR, that you're still kind of in that I'm all-powerful mentality, but here you are at a lower level, and a monster just comes up and thwacks you across the face, and you fall down. I love that. I love watching that. It's a humbling that's another one of those humbling experiences that brings me joy. But anyway, it would have been so easy if the caster would have just moved out of the way or jumped out of the way.
I think generally
So,
speaking, what I see more often is healers not moving than casters. Casters usually, most people, if they're playing a caster, figure out that,
mhm.
oh, if I move
If I
away,
move, I'm not going to take this damage.
if I run away, it won't hit me. Whereas healers, particularly if you're focusing on healing,
Hmm.
a lot of stuff doesn't necessarily aggro on you because you're not doing a lot of damage to other things, but so you kind of forget to move around. I
Hmm.
think that's kind of the class of people that I think need to move a little bit more and kind of run around. I think just when you think about DDO and combat, movement is life. There
Yeah.
are, I mean, we're just talking about defenses. Um, that all applies if you get hit with something. You can physically, like, we're not talking about dodge the value.
Hmm.
You can dodge things. You can, if there's a line attack coming this direction and you're here, you can move.
You can.
You can get out of the way. So, and we're talking
You
about,
can.
jump is helpful for that. Anything that improves your speed, haste, or striding.
Yes.
You have expeditious clickies mentioned.
Yes. Yes. At the low level, if you don't have haste pots or whatever, you can get those free expeditious clickies from Korthos Island. Go do a quest for Mayor Viggy's store, and he will give you, as a reward, probably, an expeditious retreat clicky for your boots. And I wish that I had two of them because very recently lost a level 5 permadeath character in Waterworks Part 3 because I was out of expeditious clickies and I was mauled by wolves. They ate me while I watched. It wasn't fun.
Are you allowed to buy potions?
Uh, in this particular guild, no. In the
Mm.
guild I was in that this character was playing in, no. Nope.
You
So
can
most of
buy. You can still buy. They still have the guild vendors in House
the.
K. You can buy
Hmm.
pots there.
Yes. Well, you can't. You can get them for free for turning in collectibles in the marketplace, right in
Well,
front of. In fact, that's a huge part of my notes is stuff that you can get for free to keep you alive, because that's big business for me. Right in front of Searing Heights. I think his name is Rudolph Reitman. He's an NPC, and you can trade some kind of papers, pages torn from a research notebook or research diaries, one of the two, and you can trade them for haste potions. Level 5 haste potions, as a matter of fact.
which I think is better than what you can buy. Or no, that's what you can buy out of the guild vendors as
Hmm.
well. So it's only 30 seconds, and personally I'm terrible at
Hmm.
drinking his potions because
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
terrible with consumables in
I forget
general.
that I have potions. They just inundate my inventory. They just fill it up, and then I always forget to drink them.
Yeah, I'm terrible with using consumables unless it's something specific that I know that I need.
Hmm.
But um, yeah, we'll talk about potions later a little bit more too. But jump, I usually try and get my characters to have up to about a if they can cast jump, getting up to 10 jump is sufficient, or even not
Hmm.
really even worrying about it. If they can't physically cast jump, I usually figure 15 is kind of a good range.
Hmm.
Um, most of my characters have the jump belt, Mora's belt from the Shivroth adventure area, or not the adventure area, but that quest, those set of quests.
Hmm.
Um, so 15's usually I find is usually good enough for general combat. If I need to actually reach something, I'll use a uh, jump clicky or a potion. Generally speaking, for the last several years, the festival cookie, the coins and cookies system has had a jump
Oh
potion,
yeah,
which also coincidentally gives you a featherfall
Featherfall.
as well. Which, if we're going to talk about jumping, we should probably mention that featherfall will help you not take damage when you fall. And tumble does the same. Tumble does that as well, but tumble reduces the amount of distance you have fallen in terms of how much damage you take. Featherfall just it changes the point in which you actually start falling in terms of taking damage. That can be helpful as well.
Yep.
I think we're talking about dodging attacks and spells too. There are I put this in here somewhere. But I'll talk about it now. Is get to know the monsters you're fighting because they have different arcs of attack. They have different ways they attack. So archers, they have to shoot missiles, and you can dodge the missiles. Same with
Mm-hmm.
a lot of spells, particularly ray spells. They come at you in a ray. So if you're running up towards a caster or an archer, don't run directly at them. Kind of do little S's helps a little bit. So you can dodge some stuff there and jump around when you're doing that. If you find yourself surrounded, jump out of it. Don't just stay surrounded. But you can dodge a lot of attacks. And one of the things that I've gotten comments on a couple of times by some of the people I play with, particularly if you're fighting something like a boss type character. If you're kind of the only one that's left, you can attack them even in melee. You can kind of run in circles around them, and what that does is as they keep having to turn, they have to keep turning to try and attack you because they have a certain arc in which they can actually do damage to you. And as you keep turning, you keep changing that arc and staying just outside of it. And that can help you still attack something, because if this is what you're attacking and you're pirouetting around it, you're always still facing the thing you're trying to attack. Whereas they keep trying to turn so that they can attack you. So that can help you keep alive as a melee in particular.
I like that. I'm gonna do that.
It helps a lot. The one that kind of sticks out in my head was the Reclaiming the Rift quest. We were running that on Epic Elite for some reason with like 3 people, and basically got to the boss. Everything was dead except for the boss, and he was just smoking people. And I had a lot of success, and probably took me like 15 minutes, but I was on my melee druid, and I was kind of running circles around him and hardly taking any damage. And one of the other guys kept coming in to try and do damage. He'd run straight up to the guy and just stand there. He kept dying all the time. So it works. It's a little weird. You get a little dizzy. If you have problems with vertigo and motion sickness, perhaps not the tactic for you. But it does work. So I'll say I'll talk about positioning. If you can find a perch, it's a little cheesy, but perching can work fairly well. Particularly if it's like legit perching and there's actually places where you can perch. That's not a spot you're not supposed to be able to get to. Door blocking, it used to be a lot more popular of a tactic. They kind of changed the way that some monsters work. They gave a lot more monsters kind of cleaving attacks. You couldn't just door block.
Mm-hmm.
Usually what you do is you'd stick someone in the door, have a caster go through and like grab a bunch of aggro, and then stick a firewall or something in the doorway so they keep taking damage. And then you just kind of stand behind the guy blocking the door, and they could never get to the caster. Like I said, they kind of changed how some monsters cleave, so it's not as effective, but it still works really well. You can use other people as shields, even if they don't know that you're doing it as a caster.
Well, that's why you need to carry a halfling in your party, so that you can use halfling as a shield. You can just hold them up there. They're real small. You can just hold them in front of you. And
the problem is halflings are kind of short, so the giants just step over them.
The arrows go right over their heads too. I know that.
I've also, occasionally gotten to the point. This is not necessarily a permadeath thing because I don't know how much they actually use red shrines, but sometimes stuff hits the fan and you seem to be dying a lot. Try and get in range of a res shrine so you can at least get yourself back up.
Okay, you shouldn't be using a res shrine as a strategy. If you're using a res shrine as a strategy, you need to rethink your life, Patrick. Rethink your life. Look at the choices. Stop doing that.
Sometimes it happens, and sometimes it's handy to have around. Let's talk about kiting. This goes back to monsters have different ways that they attack. So know how to kite stuff. Don't kite into uncleared territory, as Lessah mentions.
Yes, thank you. That's a great way. That's a great way to go dungeon alert. That's a great way to get some other party members killed or yourself killed, is to go kiting into uncleared territory. And so whenever I kite, I like to go kind of in a circle or a semicircle. And if you're a squishier type and you don't want the aggro, just make a circle around your tank. Eventually they'll get it. Eventually they'll take it away from you.
Or your melees in general,
Yeah.
so they can, which also makes them happier because they don't have to chase after the monsters who are chasing after
Yes.
you.
Yes. It's a little irritating whenever you have to chase down what you're trying to fight because it's chasing the ranger who's standing and giggling in the back of the party. Ha 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 ha! Look at what I have done.
Yeah, there's kind of two main ways to kite. One is in circles, which you kind of mentioned, which
Mm-hmm.
is generally better because you're running away from them, but you're keeping them in the same area, which can be particularly useful for, say, like a firewall or other area to affect spells because they can still take damage, and other people get them. The other way is kind of straight lines, which is something more you can see more archers do because they've improved precise shots, so they can get things lined up. It also strings things out a little bit because some monsters have different run speeds, and will stop to try and throw things at you and various things. So you can kind of, if you run in a straight line, you can get things spread out a little bit more, whereas running in circles tends to clump them up. So it's just something to kind of think about. And again, think about how the monster attacks. Like if you're running Fall of Truth and the spectral dragons or the little dragons, whatever form, if they're dead or alive, circles is better because they have that attack arc that their main attacks, their dangerous attacks, have to hit you in. So if you keep running out of that arc, they have to stop to use their big attacks. Monsters I can't think of any monsters that can actually, other than in melee, move and attack at the same time. They generally have to stop to do that stuff. So if you run in circles, you get out of their attack arcs when they stop to use those abilities. So that can be really helpful to stay alive. Other ones you just want to get away from because they have aura effects or something like that, so a straight line works just fine. Generally, circles is better. And worst comes to worst, run away. Running away
Yeah.
is a viable tactic.
It's okay to run away. First of all, it doesn't make you any less of a player or a character or whatever. It's okay to run away. There's no shame in it, but always retreat in the direction that you've cleared. Don't run away into unfamiliar territory. That's a great way to die.
Running away towards enemy lines is a bad choice. Let's see, some other just general things. Blocking. If you're on your butt, block.
Yes. Yep, I added that. If you get struck helpless. If you get struck helpless, block.
Anytime that you can't do anything else, hold shift, block. It reduces the damage that's coming in. It doesn't necessarily do a lot, but particularly for blocking prevents special attacks. There's also a couple abilities that if you're blocking with a shield, you can take less damage and mitigate some effects. Usually energy resistance kind of ups your energy, not actual energy resistance, but it reduces the damage you take from energy effects. I'm just kind of talking about the same thing. Balance. I like putting skills and points into balance because if you get knocked on your butt, balance is what gets you back up. So more balance is better.
Do you put points into balance, or you just put it
If I
on the
have some to
person
spare,
somewhere?
if I can fit it in, I actually really like some of the boots out of Giant Hole because they have balance on them with striding.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily look for balance items unless for a while I was collecting con of balance belts for my casters, just because I needed a constitution item. Belt seemed to be working, and I suddenly found a bunch of balance items, and I was like, hey, great balance, nice bonus. It's not something I necessarily plan for. If I have extra skill
Okay.
points, I'll stick them in balance. Usually my extra skill points, I'll stick a couple points into jump, depending on whether or not they can cast jump, just to get that up a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
then I kind of start dumping into balance. And I don't really worry about tumble. I might stick 1 point into tumble just so that a character can use tumbling. Because again, when we talk about movement, tumbling, even if you have really low tumble, sidestepping
Mm-hmm.
can be a good way to avoid attacks quickly. Particularly if you can tumble, you can get a lot farther. Because more tumble increases the distance that you can travel in those circumstances. But I generally don't put a lot of points into tumble. Balance is kind of my go-to. I have extra skill points spot. Let's see. Should we talk about being prepared?
Yeah,
You have a whole list of potions.
I do. So I figured that you could talk about the whatever it is you power gamers, elitist snobs do, and I can talk about what the people who don't have any money do. People who can't afford that stuff, or people don't have that stuff available to them. What I call the cheap option for healing options, and people don't realize this. People that don't bother with collectibles don't realize this, but almost all collectibles are good for curative potions when you turn them in, and they're not just regular heal potions. Most of them do healing over time. It heals you for a little bit, and then it keeps healing you for an additional several seconds. It's pretty cool. So my personal favorites at the low levels are prayer beads, amber vials, all mushrooms, and lily petals. Only lily petals don't heal you over time. You have to think about that. And it only takes a second to turn them in.
I think.
Yeah, they are just cure mod wounds. But also, if you're in a place like Tangleroot or whatever, wherever the flowers grow, or Party Crashers, wherever you're going to find lily petals, you also find some other collectibles that do some really cool stuff, like remove blindness, remove poison, all in the same potion, and it's basically a potion of yes. So I get as many of those as I can, and I just carry them. So some certain things are a lot easier to deal with than others. Let's see, and I had someone mention to me to put points into heal. I don't know if people actually bother paying attention to their heal skill, but each point you put into heal is 1% positive spell power.
Right,
Is that
which,
true?
yes, it's not amplification. It doesn't work for, like, if you drink a potion, it's not going to give anything, but if you cast a heal spell, then it will apply that. That's a recent change.
Okay.
So, let's see. Do you have other potions you want to mention?
Oh, I'm like, no, that's it. No. Yes, I do have other curative potions that I wanted to mention. You get to talk about the Evening Star Calms. I don't even know what that is, Patrick. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
So let's talk about the cheap option for your curative potions. If you go to the Necropolis, and there are special collectibles that you're going to get in the Necropolis, I can't think of all of them right off the top of my head, but you can turn those in for Death Ward potions and Restore potions. You can run Tangleroot, the Tangleroot quest chain, and you can get a clicky, a Death Ward clicky. It's called the Visor of the Flesh Renderer. You don't always get offered it. Sometimes, and that's it's very frustrating, especially if that's the only thing you're looking for. It's
My experience
really
is that only drops if you already have it.
yeah. If you already have it, you're going to get offered every time.
They are bound to account, though.
Per protocol. Yeah, you can pass them around if they are bound to account. But it's a Death Ward clicky. It lasts 7 minutes. Very, very useful for low-level characters. Also, you can, in the Crystal Cove, you can upgrade your bottomless rum potion. Oh God, this is kind of a double-edged sword, Patrick, because it takes a lot of green shards to get that bottomless rum potion to the top tier. I did it in the last time, and I'm still not sure if it's worth it. So what I would recommend is every time the Crystal Cove runs around, just upgrade it once and leave it alone, and wait until the Crystal Cove comes back around and upgrade it again.
10 years down the road.
10 years down the road, you're finally going to get what you're looking. You're finally going to get that heal and restore potion. But it recharges every 5 minutes. So if you're in a pinch and you don't have anything else, you can just bam, and it's free, and it never goes away. So that's that can't be bad. Or instead of doing the Necro turn-in thing, you could wait for the Maybar event, which comes around Halloweenish, and you could collect motes of winter, and you can trade those in for Death Ward potions. Oh, and you can also trade those in for something called, they're umbral wargs. You can get little pets or shadow gargoyles, but you have to be real careful because I tried these things, and every once in a while they put out a shadow, like a thing that tries to kill you. Learned that the hard way. Yeah. Yeah, that's dirty pool, man. Every once in a while, my pet has a pet that tries to kill me. I don't like that. But anyway, you can collect Motes of Winter, and you can get some good stuff out of there. Let's see. What is Evening Star Comms?
So if you're running the Evening Star quest chains, pretty much most stuff in Evening Star, you can get combinations of Villager, Purple Dragon Knight, War Wizard, Clerics of something or other, and Druid something or other. There's 5 different combinations, and you can turn them in for various potions, consumables. I think the Cleric ones will get you a Death Ward, the Druid ones get you a Restoration Pot or a Barkskin Potion, which I don't know why anyone would get. The War Wizard ones give you greater... War Wizard gives you Haste Pots, PDK ones get you greater Heroism Potions, and the Villager ones give you Cider, which can either give you a heal over time effect or a spell point regen time effect. So if you have the gear that you want from those different things, you can turn those in for those. I usually do it right before I do any TRing or reincarnation, for either epic or heroic. I'll go and turn that stuff in and just put it in a kitty in my shared bank, and then I usually keep like 10 of the 10 GH restoration and death ward potions handy. But yeah, there's a lot of consumables that you can get from collectibles and stuff, and they changed. I remember back in the days when it was like crummy collectibles, like they'd give you arrows,
yes,
and bolts and junk.
And then for the singular, for the rare stuff, they would every once in a while you could get a weapon, but it was like random weapon, and it was a lesser. Whatever,
like
it was lesser bane of whatever. Yeah,
bane or something like that.
Exactly.
Like not worth it. I mean, I still have. I probably have something like 300 to 400 lily petals in a collectibles bag.
Oh my God! Why are you not turning those in? You can have a whole big stack of heal potions.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never did.
Because you just can't be bothered. Because you people.
It was more inconvenient to go to the vendor and house
over it.
100 stack of Curious potions.
That's right, because you're so inundated with money you can buy Stormreach.
It was convenient.
Uh-huh.
Hey, it's not my fault that I made a Hagelbard.
It's not my fault that I'm amazing, Lessah. I'm sorry.
Just use the system.
It's okay. Yeah, yes. I do have one suggestion if a player doesn't have if you're guarding your commendations the way I do, go collect your Amulets of the Lost Empire, and you get those from killing giants and trolls and ogres. And you can go to House Durasco over by Delara's, and around the back, there's a barbarian trainer tucked away in the corner. There is a vampire behind him, and you can talk to him, and you can trade your Amulets of the Lost Empire for greater heroism potions that last for 10 minutes.
You can also use like scrolls. There's a lot of scroll options for some of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a scroll UMD user or whatever, you can buy GH scrolls. But I'm just saying,
you
don't have that option.
Versions of some of this stuff as well.
Pots for free.
We didn't really talk about it. We probably should have. You can get like Blur gives you 20% concealment. You can get that in a wand. Generally, you have to find it, but they drop fairly regularly. Displacement gives you 50% concealment, which is a self-cast only spell now. Cloud Kill gives concealment to it. It makes monsters apply concealment to things that they attack. Concealment is just like a missed channel, kind of like dodge. It's something that they have to calculate through to hit, unless they have true seeing, in which case they can ignore it. Although I don't think that applies to Cloud Kill. It might. I don't remember. And then Incorporality also, you can get things that make you ghostly, which generally is a 10% incorporeal bonus, and that's another mischance. Those both concealment and incorporeality are just percent mischances. And that's what the monk Shadow Veil move is an 25% incorp chance as well. Back on being prepared, I also mentioned that in the 12, there's a vendor there that sells resist 20 potions for your various resistances.
What? What? Did I just learn something? Excuse me? Where is this vendor in the 12?
It's in the Tower of the 12. You can buy resist 20 potions. Actually, someone else told me that. It's not something I figured out myself. I think it was on the cast like a month, 2 months ago. Someone mentioned that. Like,
I'm gonna go find that.
Yeah, it's over in one of the vendor areas. I think it's to the left as you go in the tower, and you kind of go left and then go left at the T or something like that. There's a vendor back in there that sells resist potions. It's a good option there as well. And, also, you can get lesser restore potions. They're not as effective as restorations, but they take care of stat damage. They don't handle negative energy or negative energy drain, negative levels. There we go. But they take care of a lot of other effects, including symbols of weakness and let's see, various pretty much anything that drains a stat that'll take care of other than a negative level.
And lesser restore pots come free, turning in prayer beads.
Yep, you can get those as well. So those are all things to keep in mind. If you can scroll, you can get greater restoration or just restoration scrolls as well. And just for kicks, as I mentioned, the hammer out of Vault of Night has a restoration clicky on it, but that's not exactly easy to get. So why do you want some of this stuff? Just in terms of buffs, so greater heroism prevents you from getting feared, which you can still move around at a slower pace, but you can't do pretty much anything else other than move. Freedom of movement protects from all sorts of things, like holds. And then protection from evil prevents you from being hit with greater command or any kind of commands. You mentioned have a paladin. Paladins get that as a spell, as do clerics, divine casters, clerics' favorite souls, and wizards and sorcerers can also memorize that.
And sometimes you can find it on a wand too.
Yep, you can find those on wands as well. The wand versions, so there's two versions of the spell. There's protection from evil, and then there's magic circle against evil, which is an area effect of that spell. Although I don't think that comes on a wand. I think you can only get the single target spells on a wand. But those are worth getting. I want to point out there is a difference between Death Ward and Death Block. Death Block you can get on items. It prevents instant kill effects from affecting you. Death Ward does that, and it prevents negative energy damage, and it prevents energy drain. So it does more than Death Block. However, it's a spell, so it can be dispelled, particularly like Beholders. Or if you're running it, the Shadow Dragon dispels Death Ward as well in Temple of the Deathworm. Let's see, other buffs. Those are kind of the main ones that when we're talking about staying alive and defenses. Let's see. Just want to throw out a couple things for gear really quick. Spell absorption items will help you stay alive. Energy absorption, although it's not something that I would consider a primary thing to be carrying. It's kind of more of a slot in for various circumstances. And healing amplification. Anything that gives you more healing out of your cheesy little cheap potions will benefit you in the long run. So let's talk about threat management, and I'm gonna let you kind of talk about this a little bit, Lessah, since you wrote a book on this subject.
What? No, did I? A small. It's a novella, Patrick. Get it right. All right. Well, if you want to talk about threat management, I can almost see two sides of this, because there's the people that want aggro and there's the people that don't want aggro but they still want to attack. So when you talk about changing targets for Intimitanks, or the people that want to get aggro, this is the perspective that I usually come from. Um, I, I try to pick what I call the right target, and that's whoever is going to be the biggest threat to my party, or whoever I can kill, or whoever I can keep busy to make the fight go a little bit easier. So let me ask you this question. If you have a caster, or if you have a wizard, a cleric, and a melee, who are you going to kill first?
What am I playing?
I don't know. You tell me. You tell me.
It matters.
I'm going to kill everything with my one shot.
If I'm on a caster, well, if I'm on my necro, then I'm gonna kill the caster and the cleric quick and move on.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking,
I
you're probably
would
gonna go
agree
after
with that.
your caster. Anything that can cast spells, you're generally gonna go after first, but not
Mm-hmm.
always the case.
You're,
And it
you're
depends on what I'm on
absolutely,
too. If I'm on
absolutely,
something,
and
if I'm on my monk, if that caster's just gonna throw a bunch of fireballs at me, I'm not gonna care.
and a named boss is not always going to be the biggest threat in the room. Sometimes it's his support crew that's a much bigger threat, particularly if they are casting different spells to debuff you, or to bring your resistances down so that you can be killed easier, because they have a strategy as well to kill you. Just like you have a strategy to kill them, they have a strategy to kill you. So you have to think about that. Yeah, and sometimes you want to kill that boss last because you can get maximum XP. But I think I mentioned this before, or maybe I put it down here. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Don't worry. Let's see. So you have threat reduction written here, and for me, I don't even know. Man, I don't even know what that is. What is that, Patrick? Threat reduction? I'm a tank. I want threat generation. I want people to hate me. I want to up that as much as I possibly can. So
When you're
what's
talking
threat
about
reduction?
when you're talking about threat, there are modifiers that give you more threat and modifiers that give you less threat. Um, Now, we're talking about staying alive, so I'm kind of ignoring tanks, because generally speaking, a tank is going to put themselves in front of all the damage. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
want to this is staying alive, so I don't want any damage. As much damage as possible. So threat reduction is find some stuff that reduces the amount of threat that you generate. Rogues have a ton of stuff in their enhancement trees, from just general reduction to there's some attacks that reduce threat by a fairly large number. There's items that you can get that reduce threat. If you generate a lot of damage, which typically characters that aren't actual tanks typically can do, having some threat reduction will help you not take aggro from the tank and thereby not get eaten. That's threat reduction. And on the same line, the skill diplomacy is the opposite of intimidation. So intimidation grabs aggro, diplomacy gives it away. So that can be a useful thing as well.
Yeah. In permadeath, if you do that, we call that a diplo kill. if you use diplomacy and you to give me some aggro and I end up dead, we call that a diplomacy kill. You will not be popular with your friends in permadeath if you use diplomacy. I'm just saying. Converse to that, I use intimidation, because if I can intimidate it, I can take that mob basically wherever I want, unless it's a camped mob or something like that. But i.e. to a caster's area of effect spell, I can't tell you how many times I have seen a caster, even in permadeath this happens, Patrick, but I've seen a caster put down some really good AoE, and the melee types will stand just shy of it, so that it's not doing anything. It's not helping anyone. So, and I don't know why that is, why people get tunnel vision like that, but really use it'll make your casters maybe want to cast AoE more. Maybe is that why you people stopped casting AoE, because we stopped using it? Is that what it is? It's a communication issue. This is a relationship problem we're having. We're working on this right now, Patrick. You're gonna cast AoE and I'm gonna fight in it. Okay, we're gonna agree to do that.
They gave me energy burst, and that's just much more effective.
Is that what happened?
There are other better cheaper
I
options.
can't be bothered.
I still use AoE.
I can't be bothered to do that. So, anyway, let's talk about aggro management, and this is where I wrote all my notes. So, because I see this in what we call, if you're not in permadeath, I'm going to say that you're in Gen Pop. You're in the general population. This is like if we were in prison, I would be in the special place and you would be in Gen Pop because, you're out there in it. I don't see a lot of aggro pulling, what we call respect for your enemy. Pulling more aggro than you can handle in a fight is gonna kill you, or it's gonna kill somebody else. So when you can, fight on the ground of your choosing. In other words, make them come to you and not the opposite, if you can manage it at all. And I've already talked about
if you make them run through traps.
Yeah, exactly. You can use their own traps against them. You can set up remember when people used to use kill zones? Remember that?
I still use kill zones.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about? So I already talked about crowd control. Use it. And Timitanks basically make the mobs go where they want and not the other way around. Let's see. Separate a master from his minions, and they'll be a little bit easier to take down. And you do this in 3 ways, right?
I'm just going to point out that you have 4.4 ways listed here.
I have 4 ways instead of 3 ways. I just noticed that.
Hey Samus, I just want you to
awesome.
know that I got Lessah from talking about 3 ways and 4 ways.
Oh my god! Patrick! I thought you were a professional!
You're welcome.
Oh my god! I don't know what my emotions are doing right now. That's it. You better watch out. Samus, you're on notice. Okay, let's talk about noise pulling. Fighters are very, very noisy sneakers. So if you want to pull just a few things at a time, have your fighter sneak up about 10 or so feet and then sneak back. As soon as their feet start flashing red, then they can be heard by a few mobs. Sneak back and just kill whatever follows. Just drag them out of line of sight. They'll come. And then there's something that was my personal favorite in Vaughn 3 called bluff pulling. If you have someone with a good bluff skill, you have them go and bluff pull, use the bluff skill to pull one guy back, and you kill that one guy, do it again, do it again. This is how permadeathers do Vaughn 3. There you go. I'm giving away all my secrets today. You just got it out of me. It was the 3-way, 4-way comment. That was it. I can't hide.
So Vaughn 3 is where I use the tactic of be in range of a shrine.
Oh, God.
And perching. There was a nice little perch spot there.
What? Oh, you mean... Okay. I don't want to know. I don't know if I want to know. Maybe I want to know.
There's the rock pile that kind of divides the area.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You can stand on top of that and have someone pull stuff out and shoot it.
That's a good tactic, too. Let's see. Actually, and bluff pulling is a pretty good way to conserve mana. If you are out of shrines and you have a larger fight in front of you, so you can pull off things in little chunks at a time, especially if they are named things. So that's why I use Vaughn 3 as an example for that. Bluff pulling is really fun. Range pulling has changed. I have it listed here, but it used to be easy. It used to be you could shoot something and the rest of the guys would go, "What's that? I don't know. Let's
just shoot one guy and he'd come and the rest would just
shoot one guy. That one guy would come and try to kill you." That doesn't happen anymore. I'm told that you can shoot the ground next to their feet and that helps. And I'm also told that if you wait until some of the mobs are facing away from you, just shoot when you shoot the ones that are facing, the only ones that are facing you will come. But I haven't tried this because every time I try to shoot something, everybody comes and tries to kill me. So to separate them a little bit, you still I don't think this has changed. You can shoot a barrel, and some of the mobs will go over and check it out. They'll go, hey, what the heck just happened over here? And it helps separate them a little bit. But since ranged pulling has changed, I'm a little bit leery of it. I'm a much bigger fan of what I call sight pulling, line of sight. I have great success with this one as a tank. I just go a little forward, and I just kind of stand in line of sight of whatever I want to come to me. One or two guys will see me, and I'll just kind of duck back. I'll take care of those guys, come back out, grab somebody else. It's very easy, and it's fun. If you have the patience, most people don't have the patience. Most people just want to come in and announce their presence with authority and just chop, 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 and kill everything. Yes, that's you. I saw that. So, but line of sight pulling is fun. So you should try it at least. If you don't try anything else, you should try this one at least once. All right, you get to talk about the next section.
All right, so this is target selection. This kind of comes down to what are you going to kill? What are you trying to kill? So this is a little more offensive, but if you've got five choices to attack, if something's near death, then killing that gets it out of the way and makes it not an issue. So that's something to always consider. You noted that casters like to finger and instant kill stuff that's almost dead.
Yes. Per protocol, a caster will throw their biggest spell at a trash mob who is almost dead and being actively engaged by a melee party member. That's in your book, right? That's in your caster must-do book. I know that exists. Don't you lie to me.
I try not to do it. You're just kind of clicking through and going through spells. But
this happens to me every time. Also, yeah. I'm told that a caster is honor-bound to charm a target that a melee is about to engage. If I'm about to engage something, somebody's going to charm it. And I've seen that one firsthand. I know that's true.
The big idea here is, pick your targets with a little bit of thought. Don't just randomly kill things. So things to think about is how close to dying is it? Because it may not do a lot of damage, but it does some damage. And if you can spend 2 seconds killing it, then spend 2 seconds killing it, and reduce the number of stuff that you have to deal with. What I call threat level. How dangerous is the monster? This is where we're talking about like casters, clerics, things that are going to cause you problems with crowd control, or maybe are going to heal other monsters. General rule of thumb: divine casters, then arcane casters, then martial things, so archers and melees. That's a general rule of thumb. It's not always the case, but take some of that stuff. Another thing to consider is how easy it is for you specifically to kill something. If you're primarily using instant kill spells, like as a necromancer or something, then you want to target things that have poor fortitude saves, which would be arcane casters. Divine casters actually have a pretty decent fortitude save, so you might watch out for those guys. They can also cast Death Ward. If you are a tactical fighter, you like doing stuns and trips, or a monk likes doing stuns. Again, you're targeting things that have lower fortitude saves, so your spellcasters are going to be a little better of a target. So stuff like that to consider. If you are a caster that does a lot of damage spells and a lot of reflex for save kind of stuff, don't target the things that have evasion, that kind of thing. So pick your targets to kill. This is kind of an offensive defensive kind of tactic to staying alive. Kill stuff faster than it kills you. And kind of going along with that, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but knowing the monster, which arcs do things attack, which arcs are things more dangerous in? Two really easy examples: dragons, their mouth and their tail. If you attack them at their hind legs, they generally don't do as much damage to you because they can't hit you with their tail and they can't hit you with their mouth. Beholders, the eyeball. If you're in the eyeball, then you can't cast spells for most beholders. So that kind of thing. what does it use? What kind of spells does it use? If you know you're going to fight a bunch of stuff that has, or if you know you're going to go in a chronoscope, you better have protection from evil because pretty much everything in there can cast Greater Command. Stuff like that. If you're gonna, something's cast Death Ward, make sure you have Death Ward or Death Block.
Yeah, I have know what you can handle listed under this. If the end fight is too much of a question mark, like, oh gosh, I don't know if we're going to be able to handle this, consider running it on a lower difficulty level, maybe. Maybe you wouldn't need to use a red shrine as a tactic in your fighting if you ran something on a lower difficulty.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Fun.
Elite streaks, Patrick, elite streaks are for completionists and people with herpes, okay? So just remember that. Elite streaks can give you herpes. So stop trying to be a hero and have a little fun.
So since you're not a completionist, and you run elite streaks because you're always going to come to that.
Ergo.
Just saying. Yeah, I mean, you run stuff on a difficult level that's appropriate for your skill level and your party skill level. Elite was never intended to be the normative way that people run things. That's what experienced players can run and get a bonus. It's a bonus. Bravery streak is a bonus. It's not a requirement. So run stuff that you're comfortable running. You don't have to run stuff on an elite streak just to level. Yes, it makes you do it faster. You get more XP. Yes, but have fun. Don't. If you're dying all the time, you're not getting anywhere. So keep that in mind. I want to spend a little time talking about traps because most of this applies to monsters because that's generally the major threat. But I want to point out that a lot of traps you can avoid by learning their timing. If you just kind of watch them go through a couple of cycles, you can learn some of the timing, and you can use some Twitch stills to get through them. If you have to run through traps, do things like boost your hit points, temporary hit points in particular. Top off, throw a cocoon on you, use an aid potion, get some temporary hit points. Protection from energy if you're going to go through energy traps. Stone skin if you're going to go through physical traps. So just kind of some things that you can to help you get through that trap.
Yeah. Hey, I have a great idea for helping you get through a trap. Let your trapper take the trap down. I know. You know what? It might take a little more time, and it might keep you from surfing porn for an extra 30 seconds after you log off the game, but you will have made that player so happy. So let them do it. Don't devalue your trapper.
It's worth noting that a lot of traps, the trapper actually has to run through the trap.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind if you don't. Particularly an artificer because they don't actually just get evasion.
Yeah.
That can be kind of a trick for them. Use your radiant aura, which reduces damage by 25%. That's a good tactic as well. There's a lot of ways that you can kind of get through some of those traps a little sneakier. I'll mention too, a lot of when you talk about a hallway with blade traps, a lot of times the blades, if you run down the middle, you get hit by both sets of blades, but if you run to one side or the other, you won't get hit by them. Spikes can be a little tricky because their area effect is a little vague in a lot of cases, but with a little trial and error, you can usually find those. You may notice in our Party Crashers episode, there was a section of spikes where if you jumped along the side, you didn't get hit with them. That's also if you're running Temple of Vol, the trap side with the key. If you kind of jump over the architecture on the sides, you can get through without getting hit by most of those traps. So if you learn some time with the traps and learn from some others, you can find a couple little tricks on how to do some of that stuff. The other thing is know where they are. If you run the quest a lot, that can be real helpful. If you're running a no spoilers run, then you kind of, send someone in the front that can either find them for you or, as I said, let the pawns go first.
Yeah. You have to have what we call it a barbarian trap finder in permadeath or paladin trap finder. We didn't have a trapper. We did my permadeath TR group. We did an elite run of what's that quest everyone hates in the Vale with all the climby jumpy bits?
Cold Chamber.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, we did Cold Chamber. We didn't have a rogue, so and that life I was a paladin. They made me go first. It worked out great.
A tip for that quest specifically: there's a lot of bats, and if the bats will actually open the doors. Any mod there will open the doors, but if they open the door, the trap doesn't go off. fun tip.
Oh. I'm learning so much today. I don't know what my emotions are doing. I know you're kind of being nice to me, so and I'm used to this sort of cycle of abuse with Samus, so I don't know what to do with myself.
You can do whatever you want with yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, where were we?
Anything else you want to add on Stayin Alive? I think
Let's
we've covered it in
see.
fairly great detail.
Yeah,
As
pretty
is,
much. You didn't talk about stone skin. You did talk about resistance, and you talked about protection from energy.
I think I threw Stone
Um,
Skin in there.
did you?
Yeah, it
Uh,
only helps against physical stuff, and
yeah,
Stone Skin only gives you it technically only gives you like it tells you that it's going to absorb 150 or so damage, but it only takes 10 at a time. So it doesn't. It's not a huge thing, but sometimes getting through that trap 10 hit points is just what you needed.
yeah. Every little bit helps. And I'm told that if you have an Earth Savant in your party, their stone skin is way better than your Clicky or your Scroll.
If they have the spell, yes, that would be true
Okay.
because their caster, the savants get plus to caster level, the maximum caster level, so they would increase the caster level on their stone skin, which would give it a longer duration and more to absorb, more total to absorb. But again, it's still only going to take 10 points of damage. Stone skin gives you 10 DR adamantine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as long as you still have some to absorb. And every point of damage you take, it subtracts from your absorption total. But it can only take 10, absorb 10 from a specific attack. But when you're talking about a trap, a lot of times traps actually hit you multiple times.
Mm.
So if you're running through, say, a blade trap, you might actually get hit 4 times. So it's effectively 40 hit points. So it's something to consider with how some of those traps work. Get used to when we talk about traps. A lot of the traps are very similar. Like they're just reused. So you'll see a lot of the same style of trap, whether it be a blade trap, a spike trap, one of the spinner blade traps. There's 2 different types of spinner blade traps actually. So they all kind of have wherever you see those traps, they're more or less going to act in the same way. They may be used a little more creatively, but they're more or less the same. Let's talk about a little bit of lightning post. So Ian asked about buying tomes. He asked via Twitter, which I'm just going to mention. I'm not a big Twitter guy, so just fair warning. I didn't find this like 5 days after he asked, but he's asking about buying +6 tomes. Just in general, I only recommend buying a tome if you need it to hit feat requirements, which is kind of if you need a stat to hit a certain point to be able to use a feat, that's when I'd consider buying a tome. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about buying tomes unless you really want one. Nothing wrong with buying tomes, but I generally just go to find them unless I need it specifically to take a feat. When you're talking about doing that, you need to consider what level does a tome apply and what level do you want to take the feat. Tomes apply. You get +1 at level 3. You get 2 at 7. 3 would be at 11, 15. What's the next one? I can do it. It progresses. It starts at 3, and you get the next plus every 4 levels after that. So it'll be 19, and then 23 for +6. So if you're using it to buy, if you're buying a +6 to use to get a feat that you need to have that +6, you won't be able to take it until you get to level 23. So keep that in mind.
Wow. That sounds expensive. And I didn't do the math for +6 tomes, but if you bought a +5 tome for all of your stats, you would be spending 8,370 points. That's a lot.
They do have a buy one for all the stats, the Supreme Tome. They do have those, which are a
The
little less
Supreme
expensive.
Tome.
But yeah, it can be expensive if you're going to start doing some of that. Let's see. The other thing I did, I did this on Twitter just for kicks, to see what kind of response I might get out of this. But the survey question of the week came from Ichiban Baggins. Lessah, what is the meaning of life, specifically for DDO?
The meaning of life specifically for DDO is finding joy wherever you can. Whether it's killing your favorite party member, i.e. the halfling, or whether it's playing with your friends, or whether it's coming out at the other end of an epic elite quest alive and victorious with an awesome piece of loot. It's about finding joy.
Let's see. I had a couple people respond on Twitter. Can't touch this. Said life is finding good people to play with, improving all your characters and gameplay. And Bonnie said that the meaning of DDO life is learning to be humble and not taking things too seriously. Barring that, it's learning to game alone, which is kind of sad. Find some friends, Bonnie. Come play on Kyber. I'll be friends. What is the meaning of life? I would say it would be something along the lines of getting loot, like loot and leveling. So, let's see. You had some questions you wanted to ask me.
Yes. Before, you're not allowed to. You can't leave. You cannot close the show, Patrick. This is something I do quite often with Samus Grobo. On the cocktail hour, we play games a lot, and this is, I don't know why. We just do, okay? Just accept it. So today, I would like to play a game with you. And this is something I'm calling Name That Quest Chain. And I'm going to give you the name of an NPC quest giver, and you're going to tell me what chain it belongs to. Okay, are you ready?
No.
No? Okay, it's okay if you...
I am terrible with names.
I'm terrible with names too, so if you did the same thing for me, I could probably only guess half of them. And I've been playing for a long time. So, name that quest chain. This first one is going to be really easy. Harbor Master's Inn.
It'd be Waterworks.
Very good. See, you're much better at this than you thought.
No, that was the easy one.
That was the easy one. Okay. Alan Fargo. Alynfargo. Alan Fargo.
See, I'm not very good at names.
He sits in front of the tavern in Evening Star.
Well, if he was sitting in the tavern in front of Evening, the only guy in front of the Evening Star Tavern is for Haunted Halls.
Yes, very good. He has a name. Did you know that?
Yeah, I ignore it every time I run into him.
Talk to this guy. Click. Where am I
In
going?
my defense, that's not a quest chain.
That's true.
One quest.
That's true. But it should be a chain because you can do it in so many different ways. All right. My glass. That doesn't count against me. All right. Corix Dunhaven. This is also an Evening Star. Corix Dunhaven. Korrex Dunhaven.
I want to say, I'm going to take a guess and say that's the Druid's Deep chain.
No. This is the Underdark quest arc.
Yeah, that was my
an Evening Star. You have to do the battle for Evening Star before you get to talk to this guy.
Second chain.
Yes, exactly. All right. Now this one's going to be a little easier. Merrick Malcanus. We're back in Eberron now.
Yeah, that's Vaughn's.
Yeah, very good. Vault of Night series in House Kandarik. All right, Yorick Amanatu.
That is... It's in Necropolis, I think.
No.
No?
It's in the Marketplace.
Marketplace.
That's a big giveaway.
It must be Sharn then.
That's the only one, yeah. There you go. Very good. That's the Sharn Syndicate. Rogue. Just the name Rogue.
That's the Carnival series.
Very good. It's called the Maleficent Cabal chain in House Bjarlin.
It's called the Carnival series.
Hey, it says right from the quest giver, repeat the Maleficent Cabal quest arc.
Yeah, no one calls it that.
And no one says that. Oh my gosh. Okay, and the last one I have for you is Chief Ungers.
That would be Grey Moon, wouldn't it?
No, that would be
or
Lord Ruku, the Elder of Grey Moon. No, Chief Ungers. That's close, though.
Tangaroot?
Yeah, very good.
One of the two.
Very good.
Think about the ones that give you a question that are tribe tribal organization.
Yeah, see, you didn't do it quite as bad as you thought you were going to do. You did fine. It was fine.
Mostly ignore the names.
Okay, and I have. Who cares what your name is? Just give me your request. I don't care what you have to say.
Tell me your problems and go away.
All right. So the next question I have for you is, why is your name Shamgar?
That comes back to college. The fellowship on campus that I was part of, the guy who organized all of our sports teams liked the name Shamgar. It comes from the book of Judges in the Bible. It's like the end of chapter 3, I want to say verse 31 or so, 30, 31, somewhere in there. He kills 600 people with an ox goad.
Cool.
That's like his one line in the whole thing.
Okay, and then the last question I have for you is, what is the stuffed animal on top of your TV? I was going to ask you what was in your laundry basket, but I'm pretty sure it's your soul since you have red hair. So I want to know what that is, that stuffed animal on top of your television is.
That is a turkey, and it's kind of a memento from my grandfather who passed away 10 years ago.
Oh.
He was associated, I don't really even know the whole story about why, but he was kind of associated with turkeys, which is kind of strange because his dad was a turkey farmer, so you'd think he'd be the one associated with turkeys, but call him an old turkey or something. I don't know where it came from, but that was something that he had that my grandma gave me after he passed away, a couple months after he passed away. So it hangs around, kind of sits there.
Awesome. Also, I don't have anything else.
Alrighty then. Well, let's close out the show then before we get too insanely long. So thanks for Lessah for joining me and for having some fun today.
Yep.
Thanks to everyone who listens to the show, and thanks to all the other people who are contributing to DDOCast. Thanks to Brian and Wizards for making great games, and thanks to Cyber Ears for hosting. Hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, calendar, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. If you want to be part of the show or just say hi, you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. The closing tip for the week comes from Jennifer. Enemies with ranged attacks aren't smart. They'll just attack as quickly as they can. Take cover while they attack and hop out to hit them in their cooldown and take cover again before the next attack. It's a very handy tactic for staying alive. Be rather appropriate. So until next time, may all your attack rolls and crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to listen to DDO Cocktail Hour. Thanks for listening.